Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari.
Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari.
Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari.
Jai
Jaya Gopi
Jaya Gopi Jana Pallava
Girivaradari.
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana.
Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana.
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana.
Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana.
Yamuna Tera Vanachari.
Yamunatira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tera Vanachari.
Yamunatira Vanachari.
Jai Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe.
Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe.
Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Radha Madhava Ashtasakhi Vindaki.
Jai
Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki.
Jai
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatkripātamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Krishna Chaitanyam Ishwaram Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. So please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Yasmat Ksharamatoham.
Yashmat Sharam Atitoham.
Yasmat Ksharamatoham.
Yashmat Sharam Atitoham.
Aksharadapi Chottama.
Aksharad Api Chotama.
अक्षरादपि चोत्तमः
Aksharad api chottama.
अतोऽस्मि लोके वेदे च
Atosmi loke vedesha.
अतोऽस्मि लोके वेदे च
Atosmi
Atosmi
loke
loke
vedesha
vedesha.
प्रतितः पुरुषोत्तमः
Pratitah
Pratita
Purushottamaha
Purushotamaha.
प्रतितः पुरुषोत्तमः
Pratitah
Pratita
Purushottamaha
Purushotamaha.
Would anyone like to chant?
Yasmaksharam atoham
यस्माक्षरम्
Yasmaksharam atitoham.
अतीतोऽहम्
Aksharaadapi chottamaha
Aksharad api
अक्षरादपि चोत्तमः
chottamaha.
Atosmi loke vede
Atosmi
अतोऽस्मि
loke
लोके वेदे च
vedecha.
Pratitah Purushottamaha
प्रतितः
Pratita
पुरुषोत्तमः
Purushottamaha. Yasmaksharam atitoham.
Yasmaksharam
यस्मात्क्षरमतीतोऽहम्
atitoham
Aksharad api chottamaha.
Aksharaadapi
अक्षरादपि चोत्तमः
chottamaha
Atosmi loke vedecha.
Atosmi
अतोऽस्मि
loke
लोके वेदे
vede
च
Pratita Purushottamaha.
प्रतितः
Pratitah
पुरुषोत्तमः
Purushottamaha
यस्मात्परम् इति हेतो
यस्मात्क्षरमतीतोऽहम्
Aksharamatidoham
अक्षरादपि उत्तमा
अक्षरादपि
Aksharaadapi
चोत्तमः
chottamaha
कोऽसि लोके वेदे च
Atosmi
अतोऽस्मि
loke
Atosmi
लोके
loke
वेदे च
vedecha.
vede
पिता पुरुषोत्तमा प्रतिता
प्रतितः
Pratitah
Pratita
पुरुषोत्तमः
Purushottamaha
Purushottamaha.
Okay. Let's go to word for word. The synonyms. Yasmat,
Yasmat,
because.
because.
Ksharam,
Sharam,
to the fallible.
to the fallible.
Atitaha,
Atitaha,
transcendental.
transcendental.
Aham,
Aham,
I am.
I am.
Aksharat,
Aksharat,
beyond the infallible.
beyond the infallible.
Api,
Api,
also.
also.
Cha,
Cha,
and.
and
Uttamaha,
Uttamaha,
the best.
the best.
Ataha,
Ataha,
therefore.
therefore,
Asmi,
Asmi,
I am.
I am.
Loke,
Loke,
in the world.
in the world.
Vede,
Vede,
in the Vedic literature.
in the Vedic literature.
Cha,
Cha,
and.
and
Pratitaha,
Pratitaha,
celebrated.
celebrated.
Purusha Uttamaha,
Purusha Uttamaha,
as the Supreme Personality.
as a supreme personality.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that Supreme Person. Purport. So I heard some little Vaishnavas here. Can somebody read? The little children who were...
It was Arjunana.
Oh, Arjun, okay. He can read. he can only read one sentence, huh? Okay, anyone else? Anyone else? Shilpa, you can read the first, first paragraph.
Okay. No one can surpass the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, neither the conditioned soul nor the liberated soul. He is therefore the greatest of personalities. Now it is clear here that the living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are individuals. The difference is that the living entities, either in the conditioned state or in the liberated state, cannot surpass in quantity the inconceivable potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is incorrect to think of the Supreme Lord and the living entities as being on the same level or equal in all respects. There is always the question of superiority and inferiority between their personalities. The word Uttama is very significant. No one can surpass the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to read the rest of the purport? No volunteers to read?
I can read, Andy.
Okay, go ahead.
The Supreme Lord in his localized aspect of
The one above. Start with the one above. The word loke.
the word Loke signifies in the Paurusha Agama, the Smriti scriptures, as confirmed in the Nirukti dictionary, Lokayate Vedartho Nenaha. The purpose of the Vedas is explained by the Smriti scriptures. The Supreme Lord, in his localized aspect of Paramatma, is also described in the Vedas themselves. The following verse appears in the Vedas, Chandra Upanishad 8.123, 8.12.3. Tavad Esha Sampradaso Samprasado
Smach.
Smach Sharirat Samutyaha Parama Jyoti Rupam Sampadya Sevana. Could you help me?
Rupena nishpadyate sa uttama purushaha.
The super soul coming out of the body enters the impersonal Brahma Jyotir. Then in his form, he remains in his spiritual identity. That supreme is called the Supreme Personality. This means that the Supreme Personality is exhibiting and diffusing his spiritual effulgence, which is the ultimate illumination. That Supreme Personality also has a localized aspect as Paramatma, by incarnation himself as a son of Satyavati and Parashara. He explains the Vedic knowledge as Vyasadeva.
Thank you. So this verse is from chapter number 15. Does anyone know the title of chapter 15?
Disappearance of Krishna.
No, that is in Srimad Bhagavatam here.
Oh, sorry.
That is Srimad Bhagavatam.
Supreme Person.
Somebody said what?
The yoga of the Supreme Person.
Yes, both the answers are right. The yoga of the Supreme Person and Purushottama yoga. Right? The Supreme Person is the Purushottama, and so the English is the yoga of the Supreme Person, and the Sanskrit is Purushottama yoga. And this month we are celebrating Purushottama Masa. So every 3 years, an extra month, we get an extra month in the lunar calendar. And this is called Adhika Masa or Purushottama Masa. And this month, Krishna himself he adopted this month. So this month is very auspicious, and devotees render a lot of devotional service, and we get a lot of benefit. It is sometimes like during Black Friday, we have a lot of stuff on sale. So you get more for less, right? So in this month, any devotional activities we do, we get a lot of benefit. So devotees, they try to use as much time as possible in Krishna consciousness, because we can advance much more than during other periods during this month. So I thought I will speak on this specific word Purushottama, and from this chapter we can discuss few things from this chapter as well. So in this verse, here Krishna is saying, because I am transcendental beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that Supreme Person. So the word for the Supreme Person, the Sanskrit word is Purushottama. Purushottama. The Purusha plus Uttama, when it joins, it becomes Purushottama. Now, what does the word Purusha mean? Anyone knows the meaning of the word Purusha?
Supreme.
No.
Men.
Male.
Okay.
Men.
Male, man, person, yes. All of them are correct in different contexts. But in this world, typically what is the meaning of the word Purusha? It is in one of the things that you already mentioned, some of you. In what context we use the word Purusha? Somebody already said the answer, but there are multiple answers in what you all have said. We use in the context of Purusha means male, right? You know, if you go in India, you say you go to a restaurant and something, and you have restrooms. One side there is Purush, other side there is Stri, right? So Purush is typically used in the sense of a male. And someone else also said Purusha means person. That is also correct. So in the Bhagavad Gita, how is the word Purusha used? For whom is the word Purusha used? For male, for female, for Krishna? Who is this word used for?
Supreme God, Krishna.
Used
Yes. One devotee said used for Krishna, that is correct. And someone else said something?
All the living entities.
Yes, all the living entities. So this is the context actually in which this word is used in the Bhagavad Gita, in the context where we are reading. And this conversation about Purusha, actually a question was put about Purusha previously in the Bhagavad Gita. Does anyone know where and who asked this question? Somebody wanted to know about Purusha. Who is speaking Bhagavad Gita?
Krishna.
Krishna. And to whom is he speaking?
Arjun.
Arjuna. So there are only two characters, right? So even if you make a guess, it's easy. So Arjuna asked a question. He wanted to know about different things. He wanted to know about 6 different things. And this was in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. He wanted to know about Prakriti, Purusha, Kshetra, Kshetrajna, and Jnanam and Gneyam. So Prakriti is this material nature. Purusha is the living entity. Specifically in this material world, who is in this mood of enjoyment. And Prakriti, Purusha, and Kshetra, Kshetrajna. Kshetra is the body, Kshetrajna is the knower of the body. And Jnanam and Gneyam, knowledge and that which is to be known, the knowable. So these are the 6 things Arjuna asked about. And actually that's what started this discussion in chapter 13, 14, 15. It kind of continues and that is actually the kind of the theme that happened in chapter number 13. And the rest of the Bhagavad Gita is kind of focusing on those elements. Mainly, there you may find other aspects, but that's the kind of main theme. So there Krishna explains certain things about Purusha in chapter number 13. So there he says Purusha, this living entity, conditioned by the Prakriti, by this material nature, he is trying to enjoy this material world and he is going through enjoyment and suffering. And this is the position of the Purusha that is described in chapter number 13. But Krishna also, let's go to chapter number 13, few verses we will read. This is from chapter 13. The question is asked in the first verse itself. but the specific topic of Purusha, it comes later in verse number 20. So I'm scrolling down there. And we can see here material nature and the living entity should be understood to be beginningless. The transformation and the modes of matter are products of material nature. So in the Bhagavad Gita, there are, in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, Krishna say, Srila Prabhupada explains that Bhagavad Gita talks about 5 different subject matters. Okay, Bhagavad Gita talks about 5 subject matters. Does anyone know what are the 5 subject matters?
Karmakanda, Jnanakanda, Bhakti Yoga.
Yes, those are also discussed in Bhagavad Gita. That is one way to look at Bhagavad Gita is in terms of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. That is definitely one division of the Bhagavad Gita. But Prabhupada specifically points out 5 elements in his introduction. What you said, Mataji, is also discussed in the Bhagavad Gita. It is also correct. But I'm specifically looking for what he said in the beginning of the, in the introduction, he mentions 5 topics.
Kala,
Yes, Kala. Kala means time.
Karma,
yes, Karma also. Yes, Kala, Karma.
Prakriti, Purusha and
material.
Yes, Prakriti. Instead of Purusha, Prabhupada uses the word Jiva, but it's the same. Yes, and then there's one more.
Ishvara.
Ishvara, yes, Ishvara. And Prabhupada in that says that everything that's mentioned except for karma, they're all eternal. Okay, except for karma. So Kala, Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti. Ishvara means Krishna, Jiva is the living entity, Kala is the time, Prakriti is the material nature, and karma is used in a general sense. Karma, we say the reactions to our previous actions. Strictly speaking, karma just means activity, right? The activity we perform. So except for the karma, in the sense of that which binds us in this material world, that previous action that we have performed, that which binds in this material world, that karma is temporary, because once we go to spiritual world, we can destroy this karma and go. But the 4 other elements, they are eternal. And eternal, what does eternal means? It has no beginning, no end. It exists forever. So here Prabhupada is saying material nature and living entities are understood to be beginningless. I mean, the Prakriti and the Jiva, they are eternal. So that statement Srila Prabhupada makes in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, we can tie it to this specific verse here. So then what's happening to the Purusha, the living entity? Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. Purusha. This Purusha is also one of the Hetu. Hetu means cause. Bhoktritve sukha-dukkhanam. In experiencing joy and sorrow, in experiencing happiness and suffering, the cause is the living entity. So the material energy is giving us, is the cause of material cause and effect. So material cause and effect, it's also described as the senses karya karana kartrutve. So karya is this body, and karana is also explained as the senses. So material energy will give us the body and the senses, but the person who is having problems in life, who is experiencing suffering, who is experiencing so-called happiness, this is the Purusha. This is that living entity, that Jiva is the Purusha. Now because of the association with the material energy, with the Prakriti, he is experiencing good and evil in so many different species of life. We go through so many different species. according to the scripture, there are 8,400,000 species of life, and human species is only 400,000. And when we say that there are different kinds of human beings, there are different kinds of tribes, different kinds of races, so all is like that. So we go through these different bodies and experience in many different ways. Suppose if I want to experience how to fly, I forgot this guy's name. He's a very famous magician, and recently he took balloons, and using the balloons he went up in the sky about 25,000 feet. Does anyone know who I'm talking about? His name David Blaine. I forgot this guy's name. So somebody at work forwarded me the live event that was happening. So he's a very famous magician. So he alighted, he ascended into the sky. He ascended into the sky 25,000 feet, and from there he did free landing up to certain extent, and then when it came down, I don't know, maybe a couple of thousands of feet, then he opened his parachute and he landed. So it was his fantasy, it was his dream from childhood that he wanted to fly up in the sky. So we all may have those dreams. I had those dreams of flying in the sky. So a living entity wants to experience, it wants to experience these things, and in order to enjoy, we take on so many different bodies, and then we suffer sometimes, and we enjoy sometimes. So that is one Purusha. But even in 13th chapter, Krishna also said, yet in this body, this is verse number 23, yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the Supreme Proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the Super Soul. Upadrashtacha Anumantacha. So in this body, there is yet another person. Other than the living entity, along with us, there is someone else in this body. It seems crazy, right? Is there a ghost sitting in my body? But in Christianity, they call as Holy Ghost. There's a concept of Holy Spirit, Holy Ghost. That's what, Paramatma. Paramatma is the Super Soul, and he is also residing in the same body. Upadrashtanumantacha bharta bhokta maheshwarah paramatmeti chapyukto dehesmin purusha paraha. Now here, notice these words. Purusha paraha. He is that transcendental Purusha. Now the Mayavadi philosophers, when Srila Prabhupada talks about Mayavadi philosophers, we are like, why is Prabhupada always discussing this? Why do you guys have to talk about this? I used to think like that in the beginning, but as I came deeper into Krishna consciousness, I learned the concepts, and I did come across people in my own family, relatives, and some others while I'm traveling. They really think we are God. And for them, Paramatma and Atma are the same. In the body, there is only one entity, and for them, that entity itself is Paramatma. The Jiva and Paramatma are the same, and there is only one. Okay. But here, Krishna is specifically saying, Upadrashtanumanta cha. The word cha here signifies that he is also there. And he says this at in the beginning verses of 13th chapter also. Kshetragyam cha mam vidhi. Kshetragyam cha mam cha there also. Know me also as the knower. Sarva kshetreshu bharata. In all the bodies, I am also the knower. So Krishna is there in all of us as Paramatma, and therefore he knows about all of us. But we only know about our own body. So the Purusha in this body, we are there, but we only know about our body. But Krishna knows about all the bodies, and he is called Paraha Purusha or Parama Purusha or Uttama Purusha. And while he is in the body, he is also called Paramatma, the Super Soul. And this Paramatma is the reflection of the Uttama Purusha. Paramatma is a reflection. Just like a sun is reflected in a pot of water, or a sun is reflected in a mirror. And that similar kind of reflection is Krishna in our heart. But Krishna's reflection is so powerful. Through that reflection also is conscious of what we are doing, because it is his expansion, Krishna's energy, Krishna's expansion. So this is the distinction between the two Purushas. There are Purushas, and the word Purusha refers to, in this Bhagavad Gita in chapter 13 and chapter 15, when we talk about the general Purusha, it refers to the living entity. It could be a female or it could be a male. But we also use the word Purusha in the context of male also. When we say Krishna is a Purusha, God as Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is also in the form of a male, but he has a counterpart, Srimati Radharani, female aspect of Krishna. So the Godhood comprises of both the masculine and feminine aspect, as opposed to in the other traditions. You take Allah, you take Jehovah, there's no companion associated with whom you can worship. But in our tradition, we find that completeness. There is Krishna and there's Radharani, and both of them together is the representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his original feature. So now he is also using these words fallible and infallible. In this 15th chapter, he talks about, when he's talking about living entities, he talks about Kshara and Akshara. And now this name is nice, Akshara, and a lot of people, they name their children also this word Akshara. And what does the word Akshara mean?
Alphabet, letters.
Letters, Prabhu.
Yes, that is also one meaning, alphabet. Akshara also means alphabet. And there's also another meaning for Akshara.
Infallible.
Yes, infallible, right? Kshara is fallible, Akshara is infallible. In a sense, Aksharas, the alphabet also, it's a kind of the smallest units of the sound. You cannot break them further, right? So in that sense, the alphabet also, it's the smallest unit and you cannot break further any, make it, fall down, break any more further. So Akshara, here Kshara and Akshara. Kshara means that which is fallible, and Akshara means that which is infallible. So Krishna also explained in this chapter, Dvavimau lokesmin Ksharakshara evacha Kshara sarvani bhutani kutastokshara uchyate. It is described that there are two kinds of living entities. We are talking about Purusha, and we talked about Jiva, and we talked about Krishna. But even within the Purushas, again there is two classification. Uttama Purusha is Krishna, and if you put him aside, and then we have this normal Purusha with living entity. And these living entities are also divided into two different. One is fallible, one is infallible. Kshara and Akshara. So Kshara are the fallible living entities and the conditioned souls in this material world. In the material world, the living entities are conditioned. What does that mean? What does the word conditioned mean? When we say conditioned, what does that bring to your mind?
He is under the influence of modes of material nature.
Yes, one who is under the influence of the modes of material nature, right? Our existence is based on so many conditions, right? We are bound, we are tied down by all these conditions. And these are the living entities in the material world. And the infallible ones, these are the liberated souls in the spiritual world. Okay? And they are in the spiritual world. And majority of the living entities are in the spiritual world. And the living entities in the material world are minority. And how many living entities are there? Billions and trillions and quadrillions, innumerable. We cannot even count. But all of that is only small part, and sometimes it's described as ekapada, means 1/4. This material world is described as ekapada vibhuti, the 1/4 aspect of the Lord's creation, Lord's opulence. So very small portion. Just like how many people are in prison in the state of Connecticut, as opposed to how many are outside.
Maybe less than 1% in prison.
Yeah, very less, right? Very less percentage are in prison. So similarly, we are all the living entities in the material world, very minute quantity. We are in this material world. And those who are in the prison are bound by, how are they conditioned? What exactly is the prison? What do they do in the prison?
By the laws of the prison.
Yes, yeah. And in America, when I was a kid in India, I used to think when you go to prison, they beat you up every single day. But America, prisons are pretty good. They have nice television, basketball court. I've been to prison a few times with my friend Chandra Prabhu. He works in the prison in Oregon prison. So, but they are, you have very tight security, and there's fence around the entire campus. They can play basketball, but no one can escape from there. They're under very strict laws. You don't have much freedom. So similarly, the living entities are conditioned in this material world. We don't have freedom. We want to do so many things, but we're conditioned by birth, death, old age, and disease. We may want to eat lots of food, so many different varieties, but if there's diabetes, no, we cannot eat. Right? We may want to jump up and down like little children, but we cannot because there are problems in this body. So in this way, the living entities are conditioned. And there are liberated living entities in the spiritual world, and in the spiritual world there is no birth, no death, no old age, no disease. You don't have to pay power bills. Atad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha. There is no need of sun, moon, fire, electricity, no electricity bills. We don't have to take any medical insurance because there is no birth, death, old age, and disease. The very definition Vaikuntha, Kuntha means miseries, problems, anxieties, and Vai is the negation. Vaikuntha is a place where there are no problems at all. There's only eternal happiness. And in that place there are infallible liberated living entities, and Krishna, they all enjoy over there. But Krishna also comes to this material world to give us information about the spiritual world and take us back, just like in the prison also. There are so many programs government conducts for the prisoners. So where we can go in the prison, volunteers can go in the prison and help them to reform their habits. And then when they come out of the prison, they're ready to mingle in the larger society. And a prison is measured, their success is measured by how many people who get out of the prison, how many people are coming back. If there is less number of people coming back to the prison again, that's a success. But in America, most of the prisoners, they come back to the prison again because the prison system is so good, they feed them and everything. When they go out, they just don't know how to live. But the reformation process is, and what they do is they get out and they still have the old habits, and they do something wrong again and they get caught and they go back to the prison. So they're conditioned, they're fallible. But by the process of Krishna consciousness, one can be liberated. So they'll have these prison programs, and a lot of times they invite religious leaders to arrange some programs to these prisoners so that their character can be reformed. So Krishna, in the same way, he comes, he sends his messengers, the acharyas, and he reforms us. And then once we execute devotional service to Krishna, we can also go back to the spiritual world. But Krishna is saying he is again different between these liberated and conditioned souls. He is also superior to them, and he is called Purushottama. Because sometimes Mayavadis think once I am liberated, I become God. And Srila Prabhupada says this is the last snare of Maya. Because once we are conditioned, we are praying to Krishna to help me with this, help me with that. And once a person advances and he is able to get enlightened and he is not, is careful to be trapped by the material energy. But then there is this subtle desire that, oh, now I'm able to navigate these material problems and I am God. And this feeling is not correct. So therefore Krishna here is saying, I am beyond the fallible and infallible living entities. And he is the Purushottama. So this is the difference between the individual soul and the supreme soul Krishna. And that's why he is called Purusha Uttama, Purushottama. And now in this verse, also there's the word loka is used. And Srila Prabhupada, if you see in the word for word, loke is translated as in this world. But Srila Prabhupada now explains what it actually means. The word loke signifies Paurusha Agama, Smriti scriptures. Lokyate Vedartho Anena. Anena means by which, by this, Veda Arthaha. Veda, the purpose of the Vedas is revealed. That's called Lokyate. Lokyate Vedartho Anena. So that is called Loka. And Loka means in Loka. That means in the scriptures, in Smriti, particularly in Smriti scriptures in this context. And the reason is Prabhupada uses two words, Loka and Veda. Lokecha, Vedecha. Loke means in the Smriti Shastras, and Veda means in the Shruti, in the Vedas. So these Smriti scriptures are the revelations of the Acharyas, revelations of the sages, whereas Shruti is the direct word from the God. But however, the Smriti is also, it is simply explanation of Shruti in different words. It is not different from Shruti. Jiva Goswami explains Smriti actually sheds more light on Shruti. So in a broader term, Smriti is also Shruti because it is also coming from the Supreme Lord unto the hearts of the Acharyas in the form of revelations and realizations. So in all these places, Lokecha Vedecha, Krishna is described as Purushottama. And now Srila Prabhupada is giving examples. He's bringing examples from Veda and he's also bringing examples from the Puranas. So from the Vedas, Upanishads are part of the Vedas, and in Chandogya Upanishad, Tavadesha Samprasado Smat Sharirat Samuthaya Paranjyoti Rupam Sampadya Svena Rupena Abhinishpadyate Saha Uttama Purushaha. So who is Uttama Purushaha? Yesha Samprasado, that joyous person, Asmat Sharirat Samuthaya, from this body he gets out, Samuthaya, Param Jyoti Rupam Sampadya. So then he goes into Brahma Jyoti. We discussed in the previous sessions, in one of the classes, that in the spiritual world, there is no Paramatma. Those who are targeting either Brahma Jyoti or those who are only going up to the point of Paramatma but not to the Bhagavan feature, they all end up in Brahma Jyoti. So this Paramatma, he goes to Brahma Jyoti, but then again he is situated in his Bhagavan position. So the Paramatma position is only in this material world, and then in the Brahma Jyoti, Jyoti Rupam Sampadya, attaining that Brahma Jyoti effulgence light form, and then Svena Rupena Abhinishpadyate. He becomes situated in his actually original form of Uttama Purusha. So that means this Paramatma is coming from Krishna and then kind of merges into Brahma Jyoti, and it is actually Krishna's energy, which is the Krishna as the Supreme Person, and that person, Srila Prabhupada is explaining, is the Uttama Purusha. That is his identity. And now later, so Prabhupada explained, this means that the Supreme Personality is exhibiting and diffusing his spiritual effulgence, which is the ultimate illumination. So the Brahma Jyoti is the effulgence coming from Krishna's body. This is also explained in Brahma Samhita as well. And then that Supreme Personality also has a localized aspect as Paramatma. By incarnating himself as the son of Satyavati and Parashara, he explains the Vedic knowledge as Vyasadeva. So now it seems to be this last two sentences, when I was reading, okay, where is Prabhupada, how is this connected to the Purushottama? And then I looked up, there's a verse in Skanda Purana that describes this very same thing, and there it is described that Purushottama, he incarnated as the son of Satyavati and Parashara. So Prabhupada is bringing this from Purana. So he brought, because the verse said Lokecha Vedecha, in the Smriti and in the Shruti. So Skanda Purana in the form of Smriti, and the Shvetashvatara Upanishad in the form of Shruti. So Srila Prabhupada, and again following the footsteps of Acharyas from their commentaries as well, Srila Prabhupada is giving the examples supporting what Krishna is saying in this particular verse, that I am that Purushottama who is described in Shruti and Smriti, and I am superior to both the liberated souls and the conditioned souls. So this is what is being described. And later he says, those who know him as such, those who know him as Purushottama, whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. So one who knows Krishna as the Purushottama, he will engage in the devotional service of Krishna. So in this month of Purushottama Masa, knowing Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we can nicely engage in his service by increasing our chanting, our reading, or whatever other services that we can render to Lord Krishna. So I'll stop here. If there are any questions or comments from the devotees, you may please speak now.
I have two questions, Prabhu, actually.
Yes.
One is, you said when the Jivatma leaves the body, and it gets liberated, not going into another body, where does the Paramatma feature go? Did you say it joins the Brahma Jyoti?
Okay, so this Paramatma actually also goes along with the Jiva as long as we are conditioned. But when we are liberated, Paramatma, as that verse was describing, Srila Prabhupada is quoting from the Upanishad, Paramatma goes into Brahma Jyoti, but actually he is situated as Purushottama, as the Supreme Person, Krishna. But as long as we are conditioned, we are transmigrating, then Krishna is there with us.
That part I understand. So you're saying he still stays as Purushottama in Brahma Jyoti?
No. Again, there is at that point he becomes Purushottama. You can no longer call him as Paramatma once he's in the Bhagavan feature. So Paramatma feature ends to the point of Brahma Jyoti.
Okay, but he is known as Purushottama in the Brahma Jyoti, you're saying?
No, Purushottama is the person, Bhagavan feature. He merges, the Paramatma feature is more like a reflection in the material world.
I see,
right?
okay.
So that reflection gets merged into Brahma Jyoti, but he's actually the person, Krishna, from where the light actually is coming, right? So the light has to stop somewhere, the reflection has to stop somewhere. So the reflection ends at the point of Brahma Jyoti, but then there is the original person, Krishna. He is the Bhagavan feature.
Okay, I see. Okay, that is interesting. Second question, you said...
Can we just get a summarization from going bottom up before you ask the second question?
Sure. Go ahead.
Because I think
what was the which part, Prabhu?
Just Prabhu, how it gets elevated from the bottom level to Brahmajyoti to Paramatma. Can you just summarize it in 3 lines again?
Okay, so in this body there is Krishna, but Krishna's feature in this body is called Paramatma, and then there is living entity, the Jiva. So as long as we are not liberated, depending on our karma, we get different other bodies. We may go into a body of animal or whatever body. So when we go into that body, the living entity goes. Along with the living entity, Krishna as Paramatma also comes with us to remind us about the spiritual world. Now when we practice Krishna consciousness, then when we are liberated, we give up our material gross body, we give up our material intelligence, material mind, material ego, and then the living entity, depending on his level of advancement, he will either merge into Brahmajyoti or he will go to the Vaikuntha planets where Krishna is there. Now at that time, what will happen to Paramatma, right? That Paramatma who has been with us in all these different bodies. So in that, what Srila Prabhupada has cited in that verse from Upanishad, Prabhupada is explaining that this this Paramatma, which is nothing but the reflection of Krishna, that kind of merges into Brahmajyoti. But his original origin, he is nothing but he is the Purushottama, is Bhagavan, and that person is called Purushottama. He's being described as Purushottama in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad.
Thank you for rehashing it. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for asking that. Yeah. Geeta Mala Mataji, you were going to say something else?
Yeah, my second question was, you were explaining how the female feature of the Lord, in Christianity, in Islam and all that, they do not have that female feature. And a lot of time we get asked the question, why does God need a female feature? And they have great difficulty in understanding male-female relationship without lust. So they think that a male-female relationship should not exist when you go to the spiritual world, so to speak. And it's very hard to explain to them in that pure love feature there can be. But the whole question is, why does God need a female feature is a question we are asked. How would you answer it, Prabhu?
So God is not conditioned to our rational speculations, right? The trying to understand God is like a frog trying to understand Pacific Ocean.
I know.
But one thing is clear is in this very chapter, 15th chapter, this material world is considered to be a reflection of the spiritual world. So anything we experience in this material world, in pure form it exists in the spiritual world. So that the concept of male and female, that relationship is there in the material world, but it is there in a gross form, in a perverted form, but in pure form it is there in the spiritual world. The fact that when we talk that it is a reflection, in a reflection we see things upside down. I mean, that which is at the bottom in the reflection is actually at the top in the original article, in the original item, object. Whatever is at the bottom in the material world, that will be at the top. Whatever is the top is at the bottom. So this sex is considered to be abominable. I mean, this is like the grossest form is just flesh, touch of flesh with another flesh. So gross, because that's how we perceive it. But in the spiritual world, the madhurya, that's the highest, right? But it's in its pure state, in its pure form. So the simple answer is whatever we experience in the material world in its pure form, in its original form, is there in the spiritual world. So therefore we cannot say that it should not be there in God. If it is not in God, how did it even come? One of the definition of God that Krishna gives is aham sarvasya prabhavaha, means I am the source of everything, right? How can, if he is the source of everything, he is even the source of evil, he is even the source of devil. This is the problem in Christianity, is where did the evil come from? The devil is seen as a competitor to God. Who is going to win? You are on the side of evil, you are on the side of God. No, but the very Srimad Bhagavatam also begins with Janmadyasya yataha. And Srila Prabhupada says, in general, people think God means a controller. But no, God is not just controller, but God is the source of everything. That is the better definition of God than being just a controller. He's not just a controller who is saying you're going to hell, you're going to heaven like that, or who is providing and maintaining it. He's more than that. He's the source of everything. That means this idea of a male and female is in the source. So then how can you deny that what's in the source should not be there in the source while in the spiritual world?
So you're saying evil generates when we turn away from God? Is that how?
Yes.
Evil?
Yeah. So evil is simply the backside of God. When just like when you are facing the sun, we see nothing but light. When we face our back to the sun, what we see is a big reflection of our own self, a shadow of ourself. That shadow, that darkness, we only see when we put our back to the sun. As soon as we turn towards God, we no longer experience the evil. So, but where is that shadow coming from? That shadow exists only if the light is there, right? So God is the source of everything. So therefore, we cannot say that he should have this or he should not have this. So, but what we should say is what God says is what it is, and Krishna is the one, and he has his counterpart.
And I heard in a lecture this Saturday morning from Niranjan Maharaj, he said that everything that exists in this material world exists in the spiritual world, including spiders, he was saying. Because there were a lot of spiders around him, and he was trying to reflect upon that these spiders also exist in the spiritual world.
Somebody asked Srila Prabhupada, are there mosquitoes in the spiritual world? Prabhupada said, yes, there are mosquitoes, but they will not sting, they will sing.
I was just going to say that. They're all harmless there.
Yes. So we have 2 more minutes. If anyone has anything else, we can take real quick a comment, a question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah,
yes, Hare Krishna.
That explanation of the perverted world and the spiritual world, especially with the Paramatma feature getting merged into Brahma Jyoti, is something, this is the first time I'm also hearing. I didn't even get that thought. Thanks for that question, Mataji.
No, I want to say very nice answers, Prabhu. Your explanations were excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. I'm just repeating Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so if there is nothing else, we'll stop here. So we can see the Arati ceremony of Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra and Gauranitai. So thank you very much, all the devotees, for your attention.
Hare Krishna, Vancha Kalpataruscha
Kripa Sindhu Bhayeva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Namaha.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Is he okay? You should start.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashadadeshatarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Tibo Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande Arati Krishna Tibo Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande Arati वदन उज्ज्वला बहुकोटि चन्द्रादीनि वदन उज्ज्वला जलदेशे वनमाला कोरे जलमाला जलदेशे वनमाला कोरे जलमाला शिवा सुखदारदा प्रेमे गदाधरा शिवा सुखदारदा प्रेमे गदाधरा भक्ति विरोधा देखे गौररा संपादा भक्ति विरोधा देखे गौररा संपादा गौरांगेरा रोदिक शोभा जगा जनमन लोभा गौरांगेरा रोदिक शोभा जगा जनमन लोभा गौरांगेरा रोदिक शोभा जगा जनमन लोभा गौरांगेरा रोदिक शोभा गौरांगेरा रोदिक शोभा जगा जनमन लोभा गौरांगेरा रोदिक शोभा जगा जनमन Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram. Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Jaya Gauranga Jaya Gauranga Jaya Gauranga Jaya Gauranga Jaya Gauranga Jaya 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 Nitai ki jai.
ISKCON DBT founder Charya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Statar Satyashri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Kota Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Sko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhana ki jai. Shri Brajabhumi Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai. Purushottama Kshetra Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Srimati Tulsi Maharani ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Gaur Premananda, Nitai Gaur Premananda, Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, all glories to Purushottama Mas ki jai. Transcendental book distribution ki jai. Alam Sankirtan ki jai. November, transcendental book distribution ki jai. We have someone singing.
This Govind Bhashyam should sing the Nashima prayer.
Krishna, who is chanting Narsimha prayer?
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Oh, they cannot?
No, we can hear.
Okay. I can start again. Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Inanyakashi Purakshaha Shiratankanakalaye Hito Narsimha Bharato Narsimha
Parato Narsimho
Yato Yami Tato Narsimha
Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimho Ahe Narsimho Hirdaye Narsimho Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapade Keshavadhrita Narahari Rupa Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Dev Jaya Narsingha Dev Jaya Narsingha Dev Jaya Narsingha Dev Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Bhakta Prahlad
Jaya Prabhu
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Hari Bol
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
विनाशकारी भगवान विष्णुदेव की जय प्रहलाद महाराज की जय
Jai.
श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय गौर प्रेमानंद
Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us on our Sunday program today. Unfortunately, we do not have any free sponsors for today. In fact, this is the third time in the past 3 Sundays we do not have any Sunday program sponsors. So if anybody would like to sponsor the program for today, sponsorship is for only $125. You can let us know now, or you can also reach out to His Grace Pyare Mohan Prabhuji or Her Grace Jiva Mataji at the number displayed on your screen.
Well, we want to sponsor.
Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.
Janvarali Mataji and Janak Prabhuji ki jai.
Jai.
We have Janavarani Mataji and Janak Prabhuji as our program sponsors for today. If anyone is interested in sponsoring for any of our upcoming Sunday programs, you can contact His Grace Pyare Mohan Prabhuji or Hardev Jiva Mataji at the number displayed on your screen. Purushottama Adhik Mas has already started. It's going to continue. In fact, it started on September 17th and it's going to last for a month. As it is an Adhik Mas, we call it a month. So it's recommended that we increase our spiritual activities during this time because the benefits are multiplied manifold in whatever we engage in during this period. So we should engage in more chanting and reading, especially chapter 15 of Bhagavad Gita. And for those of us who are observing Chaturmasya, this can be suspended during this time period. So we would earnestly request everybody to engage in more spiritual activities during the duration of Purushottama Adhik Mas. September 27th, the next Sunday, is Ekadashi. Haribo! It is recommended for those of us who can to fast from grains and beans on that day and engage in more spiritual activities like reading more of Srila Prabhupada's books, chanting more rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and fast break is the day after, Monday, September 28th. We will have our special Ekadashi Bhajan Kirtan program. Since it's a weekend, we are planning to have it in the morning between 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. And we will be sending out communications in emails and WhatsApp groups once that is finalized. Saturday, October 3rd, we are going to celebrate Vishnu Sahasranam program. Haribol! There will be a special program organized. It will be starting at 11 a.m. in the morning. So please look out for further communications via emails coming your way. They will be, in a few days, they will be circulated amongst all devotees. A quick snapshot of our regular online programs. We have a few additions now. We are having a morning chanting session starting from 5 a.m. in the morning, lasts till 6:45. Then thereafter, we have Srimad Bhagavatam discussion. It's 7:30 to 8 a.m. in the morning on weekdays. And on Saturday and Sunday, we have it between 8 and 9 a.m. In fact, on Saturday, we also have a 15-minute a program preceding that. So please join in at 7:45 a.m. on Saturdays. And the other programs are I've displayed on your screen. You can find the details on the ISKCON of Connecticut website as well. Sri Upanishad discussion is also getting a lot of attraction. We are having a lot of devotees joining in. So, that's one of our latest additions to our list. For those of you who haven't had the chance to join yet, please feel free to join. It's a very engaging discussion that we are having every Saturday from 7 to 8. And please note there's a change in the timing for the Bhagavad Gita 108 verses memorization. So earlier we used to have it at 9 a.m. starting at 9 p.m. in the evening. Now we have it from 8:15 to 8:30 in the evening. And after our Narasimha Kavacha, which is usually starting at 8:30, we are doing a Namamrita reading right after that. And we are also having a special World Holy Name Festival Kirtan because this week marks the arrival of Srila Prabhupada in the US in 1965. So we are celebrating that in our own way. We are having Kirtan between 6 to 6:45 p.m. So even today, right after this program, we are going to have our Kirtan session. And because it is Purushottama Mas, we also have Sri Chaurashtakam chanting, right after that. So 6:45 to 7. The details of joining or participation are displayed on your screen. It is our standard ISKCON of Connecticut Zoom meeting ID. And now we will have more chanting for our three sponsors. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada ki, Bhagavad ki, Prabhupada ki.
Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you so much, Chaitanya. Janak Prabhu and Janvarani Mataji ki jai. Thank you very much again, everyone, for joining us in our Sunday program today. And we hope to see you again in our upcoming programs. You can take darshan one last time for today as we get a close-up of the deities. And talking about our upcoming programs, we just have the World Holy Name Festival Kirtan session starting in another 8 minutes. So request those interested to join us back. Hare Krishna.